Find the measure of all the missing angles. Number 1, we have a straight line. I always like to show my straight lines. And we have some intersecting lines with that straight line. When we have the intersecting lines, we have vertical angles. So if this angle has a measure of 112, the measure of the angle opposite has to be the exact same measure. So this is going to be 112 degrees. This little symbol right here through the arc indicates that any other arc with one line through it also has this same measure. And so I can look over here and I can see that there's a arc with a little line through it, and that means that this also has a measure of 112 degrees. So at that point, that's what I am given, and that's what I know. What I'm trying to find is the measure of angle A, B, and C. And now that I know the measure of this angle, I can see that I have a straight line here that includes my angle that measures 112 and angle A. So I can determine the measure of angle A by subtracting 112 from 180. So when I have 180 minus 112, I am going to get 88, I believe. Oh, I'm not trying to add to 200. I'm going to have 68. That will give me 180. So the measure of angle A is 68 degrees. Well, we also notice that we have a pair of intersecting lines right here. And if the angle A is 68, then angle C is 68 as well. And by the same rule, these are vertical angles, and so angle B is 112 degrees. Number 2. I can see on number 2 that I have a straight line, and I know the sum of the angles for a straight line have to equal 180 degrees. So I can take the sum of 15 and 38 and subtract that from 180 to find the measure of angle A. Forty-eight plus 5, 53. 180 minus 53 is going to give us 127. And when I add 127 to 53, I do get 180. So the measure of angle A is 127. Ooh, this looks fun. So this is telling me that these two angles are the same measure, congruent. I have an arc with 2 hash marks or tick marks through it, and I have another arc with 2 tick marks through it. So I know that these two angle measures are the same. I also know that the measure of this angle is 40 degrees. And I know the measure of this angle is 70 degrees. So let's see where I have some intersecting lines. It looks like I have a line going this direction that has this 70-degree measure on it, and I have a line going this direction that also is bounded, one of the boundaries of this 70-degree angle. And the reason I did this is because this makes it more clear to me that I have a set of vertical angles here. I have a pair. This angle measure right here is the same as this angle measure right over here now. That makes it more obvious to me. So angle D is 70 degrees. Now, when I look at, let's see if I have another color. I do. When I look at my other angle that I know, my 40-degree angle that is bounded by these, I can see that my 40-degree angle bounded by my pink and my yellow also forms a pair of vertical angles. So angle B is excuse me, 40 degrees as well. So angle B is 40 degrees. I know that these two angles are congruent. Let's see if I can find another, or have the same measure. That's what congruent means. And I'm going to use a different color for my last line because I've got a bunch of intersecting lines here. So I can see that this angle, they are telling me, is congruent to this angle, but also because these two are vertical, this angle is also going to have the same measure. If this angle and this angle have the same measure, because they are telling me that, not because they're vertical. See, this one is bounded by orange and green, and this one is bounded by orange and yellow. But these two are the same measure because they're bounded by the same colors. They are vertical angles. So when I add this measure plus this measure plus this measure plus this measure for this pink straight line, I should have 180 degrees. I could look at the same thing on the opposite side. This angle right here, angle C, is opposite this angle, so it also has the same measure as the angle next to it. So when I add all these together, they should sum to 180. So I'm going to call these two angles both X. And the reason I can call them both X is because they have the same measure. If they didn't have the same measure, then I could not call them both X. One would have to be an X and one would have to be a Y or something like that. But because I now know, I have used logic to determine that they do have the same measure, I can give them the same variable and I can set the sum of these equal to 180 and solve. So I'm going to use 40 plus X plus 70 equals 180. I'm going to combine my like terms. I have two X's and I have a 40 and a 70. So I'm going to combine those and I'm going to get 110 is equal to 180. So now to isolate my variables on one side, I'm going to subtract 110 from each side, and I'm going to get 70 is equal to 2x. So to get the value of just one of these, I'm going to divide each of these by 2. Whoops. So my x value here is going to be 35. So that means that this angle is 35 degrees, this angle is 35 degrees, this angle is 35 degrees, and so on. So A is 35 and C is 35.